The clink of silverware was the only sound in the room when my mother wiped her mouth with a cloth napkin, looked directly at me, and said it like she was commenting on the weather. "We used your college fund for Lauren's IVF." Just like that. No warning. No apology. Just a sentence dropped in the middle of lasagna and garlic knots across the table. Lauren leaned back in her chair, one hand resting on her barely their stomach like she'd already won a prize. The smile she gave me wasn't warm, it was victorious. Dad kept his eyes on his plate, sawing through his food like he wished he could cut straight through the moment. My chest tightened, but my face didn't move. I learned a long time ago that reactions in this house were like gasoline. Anything emotional could ignite the whole room. So I inhaled, steady and slow, tasting the metallic shock at the back of my tongue. Mom continued, her voice still maddeningly calm. "It was the right thing to do. Your sister needed help, and you weren't using the money yet." Lauren added softly, "It was for the family," as if that made it noble. For a second I didn't hear anything. Not their voices, not the clatter of dishes, not even the hum of the refrigerator behind me. Just one sharp ringing in my ears. Years of being the background child flashed quickly. School awards no one attended, birthdays overshadowed by someone else's crisis, decisions made without asking me because Camila will understand. That was my unofficial job in the family. The one who didn't need much, didn't ask much, didn't get much. But tonight, something in me split cleanly down the middle. I placed my fork down gently, like I was afraid to startle the truth into disappearing. Then I looked at all three of them. Mom's certainty, Lauren's smug glow, Dad's guilty silence, and said the only word my body seemed capable of forming. "Refund." Mom blinked. Lauren straightened. Dad finally looked up. That's when everything actually began. "Before I go on, are you still with me? My name is Camila, and for most of my life I thought our quiet little suburb worked like a shield, but that night I learned it was a curtain, one my family hid behind. Lauren has been the sun of our household for as long as I can remember. Bright, blinding, and impossible to ignore. She's 10 years older, and there are albums upon albums proving it. Pages of her clutching trophies, standing on stages, wearing sashes and medals while Mom and Dad beamed from the front row. Every accomplishment was framed, hung, celebrated. They had rituals for her victories. Family dinners, congratulatory cakes, long phone calls to relatives. And then there was me, the background child. The kid who learned early that applause had a limit, and I wasn't near it. My photos were fewer, mostly group pictures where I stood slightly off to the side, half lit, half noticed. When I won something, Mom would pat my back and say, "Let your sister go first, Camila. She's older. Then she's busier. Then she needs this more than you." After a while, I stopped expecting anything different, and why parents had a list of justifications ready for every inequality. "We're just trying to keep balance. It's easier this way. You know Lauren, if we don't support her, who will? It's not favoritism, it's just keeping the peace." Funny word. Usually meant I had to shrink so Lauren didn't explode. The only thing that ever felt mine, truly mine, was the college fund they promised since middle school. A quiet vow whispered into paperwork and savings accounts. The one guarantee no one could take because I had nothing else that required priority, so I built my life around that promise. I worked part-time as an office assistant at a small insurance company, organizing files, answering calls, pretending my paycheck wasn't mostly swallowed by bus fares and lunches. Every dollar I saved felt like another step toward the future I was told I could claim. But still, I relied on the fund tucked away from me. That was my safety, my proof that I wasn't completely invisible. And maybe I was naive to believe something in this family would stay untouched. But families are strange. The people you love can look you in the eye for years and still hide the very thing that will break you. The morning after the dinner felt unreal, like my body was awake, but my mind was still floating somewhere above me, replaying every word from the night before. Maybe I misunderstood. That's what I kept telling myself while brushing my teeth, tying my hair, packing my lunch. Mom had spoken so casually. Maybe there was more to the story. Maybe the fund wasn't actually gone. Maybe she meant they used part of it. Maybe they moved it temporarily. Denial is soft. Gentle. It lets you breathe before it crushes you. By lunchtime, sitting at my small desk in the back of the office, I couldn't hold on to denial anymore. I opened my laptop, logged into my bank account, and clicked on the tab labeled Education Savings. Camila art. The screen loaded slowly, like it already knew what it was about to do to me. Balance. $0.00, just zero. The number looked fake. Like a placeholder someone forgot to replace. My stomach dropped so fast it felt physical, like the floor beneath me tilted. I refreshed the page. Then again. My hands were cold, my fingers slipping on the trackpad, but the number didn't move. I checked the account history. Withdrawals. All within the last 6 months. Every penny gone. Then something new flashed at the top of the screen. An alert banner from my credit monitoring app. Important. Your credit score has changed. Click. A loan. A loan I never took. Opened under my name. My vision pulsed at the edges. My breath felt wrong, shallow, sharp, too quick. It wasn't just the fund. It wasn't just the money. This was identity theft. By my own family. I wasn't sure what scared me more. The betrayal or the ease with which it seemed to have happened. By the time I got home, my limbs felt heavy, like I was walking through wet cement. I found Mom in the kitchen wiping down the counter, humming like nothing in our world had shifted. "Mom," I said, barely above a whisper. "There's nothing left. The entire fund is gone. And there's a loan in my name. Did you know about that?" She didn't even turn to face me. "You're making it bigger than it is, Camila. We needed help. You'll be fine." My mouth went dry. Fine. Mom, that was my future. Lauren walked in just then, scrolling through her phone. She didn't even look up when she said, "You're young. You can start over." Start over. Like my life wasn't already a reset she kept causing. That's the moment something inside me stopped breaking and started sharpening. Because once you understand the depth of a betrayal, the only thing left to feel is the beginning of righteous anger. And trust me, Camila's anger is long overdue. The next day felt like moving through fog, thick, heavy, and disorienting. I went to work on autopilot, answering phones, organizing files, nodding at conversations I wasn't really in. My body was present, but my mind kept replaying the numbers on the screen, the loan, the withdrawals, the way Mom didn't even flinch when I told her my future had been erased. Shock is paralyzing. But it doesn't last forever. By the time I got home to my tiny apartment, the fog had thinned. Not gone, but thin enough for logic to slip through. I dropped my bag on the floor, sat at my kitchen table, and opened my laptop again. I pulled out a notebook, a pen, old statements. Anything with my name on it. Point one by one. I laid everything out like puzzle pieces. Timeline. Withdrawal dates. Loan notices. Credit report changes. And then, the document that made my heart stuttered, a co-sign form with my signature. Except it wasn't my signature. It was close. Close enough that someone who didn't know me might not notice. But I knew the curves of my own name, the slant of my letters. And this wasn't me. My throat tightened as memories surfaced. Mom asking for my social security card for tax stuff. Dad asking for my ID for school records. Moments I brushed off because why would parents need to lie? But now, I knew why. The room felt too small, so I stepped outside into the crisp evening air. I needed space. Reality. I called Jade, the one person who'd never let me minimize what I went through. She came over within 20 minutes, hair in a messy bun, wearing her oversized hoodie. When I showed her the loan entry and the forged co-sign form, she didn't blink, didn't sugarcoat. "That's not an accident," she said, voice steady. "This is intentional." Her certainty steadied me more than she knew. For the first time since the dinner table, my thoughts aligned. The fear didn't vanish, but it reshaped itself into something sharper, cleaner. Clarity. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. And I wasn't powerless. I gathered the documents into a folder, the pages crisp and confident in my hands. "I need to confront them," I said quietly. "With proof. With everything." Jade nodded, eyes fierce. "You can't let this keep happening." I met her gaze. "I won't." The drive to my parents' house felt different this time. Quiet, steady, almost eerily calm. No shaking hands. No racing heartbeat. Just a folder on the passenger seat holding everything I'd spent my entire life being told not to question. Proof. My truth, finally organized in a way they couldn't talk over. I parked in the driveway and walked inside without knocking. The door was unlocked, as usual. Mom was in the living room folding towels into perfect rectangles, the kind of chore she always used to avoid any real conversation. Lauren was curled into the couch, scrolling on her phone, barely glancing up at me. I didn't waste time. I set the folder on the coffee table. Lauren sighed loudly, still not looking at me. "You're being dramatic." 4 years that sentence would have shut me down, not because it was true but because they expected it to be. But today my voice didn't waver. "I'm being accurate." That made her look. Mom paused mid-fold, her jaw tightening. She opened the folder, flipping through the pages with growing irritation, like the evidence itself was inconveniencing her. Bank statements. Withdrawal histories. A loan. The forged signature. She didn't deny it. Didn't even pretend to be surprised. She closed the folder, ready to launch into her usual dismissive tone. I spoke first. "I'm going to the clinic tomorrow morning," I said, steady and final. "You're going to meet me there. All of you." Lauren scoffed. "For what?" "For answers," I said. "And accountability." Mom shook her head. "Camila, this is unnecessary." "No," I interrupted. "What's unnecessary is pretending this didn't happen." I picked up the folder and held it to my chest. "Tomorrow. 10 a.m. If you don't show up, the conversation goes somewhere else." Their faces finally shifted. Uncertainty, annoyance, a flicker of fear. But I didn't stay long enough to let them find their defenses. I turned and walked out before they could argue. And as I stepped off the porch, I realized something startling. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. Because it's time everyone heard the truth from the one person none of you can argue with. The fertility clinic felt colder than I expected. Too bright, too quiet, like everything inside it was suspended. Even the air seemed to pause. Mom and Dad walked beside me without speaking, their footsteps faint against the polished floor. No one wanted to be the first to break the silence. Lauren was already there, of course. Sitting upright, legs crossed, purse clutched tightly in her lap like it was a badge of importance. She didn't look nervous. She looked entitled. Like she'd come here expecting applause for showing up. Mark sat a few seats away from her, elbows on his knees, face drawn. He didn't look at me. Or anyone. The nurse called our name, and we followed her down a narrow hallway into a private consultation room. For chairs, a desk, screen. A stillness so thick I felt it in the back of my throat. Then Dr. Patel walked in. She had the kind of calm authority that didn't demand attention. It simply earned it. She greeted each of us politely, then sat down, folding her hands on the desk. "I understand there are some concerns," she began, eyes scanning the room. "And some misunderstandings that need clarification." Lauren straightened. "Yes. My family is confused about my treatment, and I'd like you to explain." Dr. Patel didn't let her finish. "Lauren," she said gently, "your fertility has never been the issue." Silence cracked the room open. Mom's face drained of color. Dad leaned back, rubbing his forehead as if bracing for impact. Mark closed his eyes like he'd been carrying this weight for months. The Dr. Patel continued, her voice steady. "Your tests were all healthy. In fact, medically, there were no concerns on your end." Lauren's jaw tightened. That's not what you told me. You said I needed assistance." "I said you wanted assistance," Dr. Patel corrected. "You specifically asked me to frame the situation as female factor infertility." My heartbeat thudded. "Why?" I asked quietly. Lauren flicked her gaze toward me. Sharp, defensive, cracking at the edges. "Because it's embarrassing, Camila. 'Cause people talk. Because Mark." Dr. Patel cut in again, her tone professional but firm. "Mark's results indicated lower motility. It's treatable, but yes, biologically, the challenge came from his side." Mark let out a breath that sounded like surrender. "I told you we should tell them," he muttered to Lauren. Lauren ignored him. Mom finally found her voice. Why would you lie about something like this? Lauren snapped. Because you always expect me to be perfect. Her voice echoed, shrill, breaking in the middle. But Dr. Patel didn't flinch. And neither did I. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder, placing it on the desk between us. The fund, I said. The loan. The signature you faked. All because you were maintaining a lie. Lauren's eyes widened. I did what I had to do. No, I said softly. You did what you wanted to do. She opened her mouth to argue, but I kept going, steady, grounded, done. I'm done being the easy one. Any debt with my name on it gets handled legally. Any damage you caused gets repaired. I'm not carrying this anymore. Lauren scoffed. You think you're suddenly better than us? I met her stare with something I hadn't held in years, certainty. No, I said. I just finally think I'm enough. The room stayed quiet, too quiet, but this time the silence didn't swallow me. It settled behind me like a door closing. And I didn't look back. The fallout wasn't loud. No screaming. No dramatic scenes. Just consequences settling exactly where they belonged. Lauren called non-stop for 2 days. Her name lighting up my phone like a faulty alarm. I didn't answer. Her messages swung between guilt trips and half-hearted apologies, but silence was the only language I had left for her. Mom left voicemails. Tight, brittle, exhausted. We need to talk, Camila. But I didn't owe them any more conversations. Dad sent one text, simple and steady. We're handling the loan. All of it. For the first time, he didn't ask me to be understanding. Mark reached out too, apologizing in a way that felt real. Quiet, ashamed, not trying to defend anything. You didn't deserve any of this, he said. He was right. Meanwhile, Lauren and Mom were dealing with the financial strain of their choices, and for once, I wasn't their solution. I moved into a small, sunlit apartment on the east side, a place with scratched wooden floors, thin walls, and windows that glowed gold in the afternoon. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Jade came over with takeout on my first night, dropping onto the floor next to me since I didn't have furniture yet. We ate noodles out of cartons and laughed at how empty the space felt, and how full my chest felt for the first time in years. Later that week, I sat at my tiny kitchen table and started drafting my college application essays. My hands shook, not from fear, but from the weight of possibility. When I finally hit submit on the first application, something inside me loosened. The ache didn't vanish. It shifted, from hollow to healing. Because protecting yourself isn't betrayal. It's survival. If my story speaks to something you've lived through, if you've ever had to fight for your own future, tell me where you're listening from. Share your story in the comments and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.